Carl, we'll move from coaches to trading. Okay, the Hawks, they want to get a lot done, don't they?
They do, and they will be able to do this. So that's the question we've got a lot recently. How does Hawthorn actually get all these things in, namely Ben King and Zach Merrett? So Ben King wants to get to Hawthorn, we know that. There's two ways you can do that. Either as a free agent, which would then force Gold Coast to accept the compensation. They'll have that choice, which would now be pick 6 they'd get in return for him. Or they could force a trade. So that would then cause Hawthorn to match it and go ahead with a trade through picks or players, whatever. So there's that element. But the other way that this can be done, I think, is the more likely option, whereby Gold Coast could accept the compensation pick and then do a deal with Hawthorn separate to that through the trade period that sees them either get a pick or a player and target something on the side there that's not connected but is a separation of this deal. So you take the compensation, you get pick 5 or 6 for Ben King, and then you go ahead and do something else. And that's where I think the Gold Coast would be looking at players like Aiden Schubert or Cal Shadir, or even they'd probably ask the question of Noah Mraz. I don't think the Hawks are going to be wanting to part with Noah Mraz, but the Suns did love him in his drafty, so I think that he'd be a target for them. There's that part of it, and then there's the Zach Merrett scenario. So they do have enough trade capital to get that done, and I think that's definitely where Zach Merrett still wants to get to.
What's he worth?
I think a value of a first rounder and either 1 or 2 second rounders. So I think that's probably where it sits. So a first round pick plus 1 or 2 second rounders. So where those second round fits, I think that's probably where it is. What do you think it is, Lloydie?
I didn't think it'd be worth as much anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think next year we're going to see a rejuvenated Zach Merrett, though, aren't we?
Yeah.
I feel like this year we've seen a different version of him, and in some ways that's understandable.
So that's Hawthorn. GWS have a few players out of contract as well, Cal.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about this, Jimmy, and which way you'd go, because I've been strong this week on saying that I think it's time for the Giants to take...
I did listen to this.
To take a couple of steps back to eventually go forward, because you can hang around the middle part of the ladder forever. They haven't won a final for 3 years. They're not going to win one this year, I wouldn't have thought, through their injuries. And their injuries have been a part of this, but they've got some big calls coming on contracts. So Jesse Hogan, I think, is unlikely to be there.
I agree with that.
Out of contract, looking for a new suitor. Jake Stringer, I think, is unlikely to be there as well.
2 from 2.
Out of contract. Toby Green has a decision to make, as we know, and they'd love to keep him. 3 years on the table to keep him. The Cats are chasing him as well. But is there a way for them to step back? And is Lockie Whitfield a play that some club would go for and say, the Giants need to take a step back to eventually go forward to rejuvenate this list while you've still got a core that you can build around? Yeah,
I think it's worth exploring. And look, they're young blokes that have been now 2, 3, even 4 years. You've invested in them, and I'm with you. I agree that they've got such... they're in such an interesting position as far as how much they evaluate. It's just been the injuries, as we've highlighted. No Buckley, mainly no Taylor, no Green at all for the year. And how much do they think? Well, we've tried these experienced sort of older boys, and we know what it is now. So, are we worth, as you said, getting a little bit bold, a little bit brave? And how much would the AFL just in the background have an appetite for that?
Well, this is the issue, isn't it? They've been in contention for the best part of a decade. They've played in finals 8 out of 10 years. When they haven't made the finals, they've made at least the semi-final the following year. So they've bounced back, but they haven't been able to attract the big crowds regardless of it being in contention. So is it going to make that much of a difference if they step back for a couple of years anyway? Now, that's a brave call to make for a club in an expansion area, but these are a couple of things that I think you'd have to be thinking about if you're them, Lloydie.
I've just been thinking as you're talking about the Suns and the Giants and how difficult it is for them. How many players now? King's another one, and they get pick 6 for him. But is that pick 6 going to be someone that in 5 years I'm looking to leave as well? And the Giant, they've just been able to attract guys like Hogan and Stringer and Oliver who have all had their problems. So it's just so difficult for these clubs. They draft fantastic players, and said I full credit to what these clubs have done, or particularly the Giants, but. It's so hard, difficult, yeah.
It's so hard for the Suns. I feel sorry for the Suns in the Ben King scenario because they put 8 years in. He was about to stay mid-year. He might win the Coleman
What's
medal.
The reason? Has a reason come out yet of why he's leaving?
I mean, I think his partner the whole way through has been interested in coming back to home and being home closer to family. I don't think it's much more than that, really.
And then you got Noah Anderson next year. Is he out of contract?
And Matt Rowell, who...
Matt Rowell.
I mean, this is the thing. the Gold Coast had their best ever year last year, and still Matt Rowell was considering leaving until pretty deep into the season.
Humphrey, Matty, as well.
Yeah,
Humphrey. Yeah.
But Bailey Humphries, Bailey Humphrey. The Hawks being so active in the other space has probably ruled the Hawks out for him, but I do think Melbourne's still going pretty hard there.
Zac Bailey, is he going to stay at Brisbane?
Well, they hope that. They've got some confidence, but I don't see a decision from him over the next couple of weeks. I'd be surprised if it came before then, and he's seen this one out. He's playing as good a footy as anyone in that Brisbane team nearly over the course of this year, and his value hasn't changed. Brisbane has put the 7th year on the table for him, so it matches the Adelaide deal in terms of tenure, but certainly doesn't match it in terms of money. So there's still a gap of, I would say, around $2.5 million. He's still got a bit to think through, so I don't think a decision will be rushed for him.
And Jordan Ridley, he wanted to go to Brisbane at the end of last year. That didn't happen. That's off the table now. Probably not a Lions move.
So he met with the Suns recently, and they aren't going to go there. Brisbane is still a possibility, but I would use the word wobbly this week. I think that's a little bit wobbly in terms of the Lions' interest now, particularly if Zac Bailey stays. If Zac Bailey stays, I don't know the cap implications of their ability to actually get that done. Victorian clubs have been asked about him as well to see where he fits in, but then in some ways he's been indicating to people that he might stay at the Bombers as well. In the end, it's Essendon's call. He's got 3 years left to go in his deal.
That's what I was thinking. I don't even know what he's worth anymore.
His body is very
and I was thinking if another club said, okay, come to us and we'll add another couple of years on top, so it's a 5-year deal, but I wouldn't want to be parting with over $1 million for someone who doesn't play.
This is where I come. You like the pick purchasing idea, Jim. We've spoken about this a lot on Gettable and AFL.com.au. This is where Essendon's one advantage at the moment is its cap space. Why doesn't, if Essendon works out that it has a club on the hook for him and they may be a bit tight in money, so we'll contribute the 90% of his deal, but you've got to give us a better pick. So you have to be creative.
And how do you see this year's draft if the Bombers were to get 5 in the top 20 or something like that?
Yeah, it's. I would say it's an even pool. I don't think it has the star factor of some of those great drafts like the 2023 crop, which had Harley as an obvious one, and the top 12 to 13 of that year are outstanding. I don't see it quite to that level, but I feel like the first 25 is a pretty even group, and it should be another year where if they can find 25 picks inside 25, they might get an assistance package pick as well, where you should be able to reboot as well on the back of some good drafts in the past couple of years.
I mentioned I might have a little trade for you here. Of course, all the clubs vying for Zak Butters. Would you trade, if you're Richmond, your first 2 picks, which was pick 1, for Zak Butters? Now, hear me out. The benefit of doing that if you're the Port Adelaide pair, you have pick 1, which you can get in front of Dougie Cochran and potentially land yourself 2 pick 1s. But what you do is you take one other kid, bid on Cody Walker to pick up the additional pick, then you take Dougie Cochran. Would you do that deal?
Yes. If you're Port Adelaide.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're Port Adelaide. And if you're Richmond, you do it as well, because it'd mean you've landed your man. So yes to both fronts. And no doubt the easiest way for Zak Butters to get to a Victorian club is if the Richmond Footy Club is where he wants to be. They can get the deal done. Their first pick is on the table. That's how it will get done, and it'll be the perfect result for Port Adelaide. As you say, you get the pick in, and then you manage to get your Dougie Cochran pick after that. Dougie Cochran playing his first game of the year this weekend as well in the sample.